I love Star Wars. Let me rephrase that for you. I used to love Star Wars. Rather it be the greatness of the original trilogy, the enjoyment and weirdness of the prequels. Yep, I used to be a really big fan of this franchise. Hell, I even love the first two films in the sequel trilogy, The Force Awakens and Last Jedi, even if they do have their flaws. But ever since the shit show that was Rise of Skywalker, I've kind of fallen out of love with this franchise, and that's mostly thanks to the recent Disney Plus shows. Now, I'm not saying that all the Star Wars Disney Plus shows have been bad. Like most people, I really did love the first two seasons of The Mandalorian. Well, that wasn't until they ruined everything with season 3, but that's besides the point. And Skeleton Crew was honestly really enjoyable. However, everything else I found either mediocre like Kenobi and Ahsoka, or just straight up awful like Book of Boba Fett and especially The Acolyte. Ugh. However, despite all of this mediocrity and awfulness, there is at least one Star Wars show that proves that when you have the right people involved, you can make a pretty damn great show and the best Star Wars content in years. And that show is Andor. Now, like everyone, I was initially turned off by the idea of a character like Cassian Andor getting his own show. Because even though I really do love Rogue One, Cassian in the film wasn't really that great of a character to warrant his own show. But everything changed when Rogue One's co-writer Tony Gilroy came in as showrunner. When he came into the scene, he urged his writing team to put away all their knowledge of the Star Wars franchise in order to make the show appealing to both people who are fans of Star Wars and those who are not interested in the franchise at all. So basically, unlike other Star Wars showrunners, Gilroy actually wanted to tell a new original story using a pre-existing character instead of just cameoing its way to victory. And if you couldn't tell already, it very clearly paid off. Now in this video I'm mostly going to be covering the second season of Andor, but for my thoughts on season 1, very clearly, I thought it was phenomenal. Amazing writing, stellar direction, beautiful cinematography, wonderful VFX, and great editing. Pretty much everything that Book of Boba Fett and Kenobi didn't have. If I had to give it a rating, it would easily be a 10 out of 10. Easily the best Star Wars show ever made. So finally, after a 3-year wait, Andor Season 2 is finally here and recently just concluded. So, what do I think of it now that it's all over? It is just as amazing and wonderfully made as Season 1. Now I'm going to review these episodes in the way they were released, so we're going to start off with episodes 1 through 3, and yeah, they were fantastic. While I do have some flaws with them here or there, I still think these were a fantastic batch of episodes, and I'm giving them a solid 9.5 out of 10, a pretty great start to the season. Episodes 4 to 6 were a bit of a downgrade in my opinion, as they did have some scenes that drag, but overall I still found them to be a fantastic batch of episodes in the end. Now this scene wasn't from episodes 4 through 6, but I still want to talk about the ballroom dancing because it is easily one of my favorite shot moments of the entire season, and maybe even the entire series. And what makes it even better is that these are actual sets the actors are dancing on, not a green screen. These are actual sets. That makes it even better. So yeah, overall, I'm giving episodes 4 through 6 a total of 9 out of 10. Definitely weaker than episodes 1 through 3, but I still liked this batch. Before I move on, I just want to say that I am going to show some graphic scenes from this show, so if you're sensitive to that kind of stuff, please click off this part of the video. So, without further ado, let's talk about episodes 7 through 9. Episodes 7 through 9 were just incredible. Episode 8 especially was the standout because it showed the horror that was the Gorman Massacre. When I saw this scene when it first aired, I was deeply shocked by the horror I saw on screen. For the first time in Star Wars history, I was actively hating on the Empire. Yes, I hated on the Empire before, but this was the first time I was legitimately actively angry and upset at what I was seeing the Empire doing on screen. Even after a few days, I'm still shaken at what I just witnessed because it was just so haunting to see what was going on. The way it was shot, the way it was edited, the way it was especially acted just made it even more heartbreaking. I'm honestly running out of words to say. It was just so painful to watch in the best way possible. And Mon Mothma's speech in episode 9 where she straight up calls it what it really is, a genocide, is just the icing on the cake. This is easily the closest Star Wars has ever gotten to making me cry. Just what a perfect batch of episodes, man. I'm straight up giving this batch of episodes a 10 out of 10. It's just perfect. And finally, the final batch of episodes, episodes 10 to 12, were also freaking phenomenal. Again, it goes to show that when you get the right people on board that want to tell an original story, you get what is easily some of the best Star Wars we've gotten in a long time. And the final shot in the final episode is just heartbreaking, because we found out that Binks gave birth to Cassian's baby. The baby he would never get to see, because his life was cut short. I honestly cannot think of any better way to conclude a phenomenal Star Wars series. 10 out of 10. Overall, Andor Season 2 was incredible. While it does have its flaws and I do slightly prefer Season 1, it doesn't take away from the fact that it is still a phenomenal addition to what is easily the greatest Star Wars show ever made. Overall, Andor Season 2 gets a 9.5 out of 10, and Andor as a whole gets a 10 out of 10. One of my favorite TV shows of all time. And one that I will cherish for the rest of my life.